Are sports on snow and slopes too dangerous for us over 50? What do one of the most demanding aerobic activities and winter have in common? How should you prepare yourself to exercise in cold weather? Let's find out.
Welcome to Scale to Fit, Fit in your 50s. Just show up, make a plan, feel stronger than you can. Small steps lead to victory, you're rewriting history. Scale to Fit, Fit in your 50s with Marco Lindgren. Come on and join us.
I have been deliberately avoiding talking about skiing and slalom and anything to do with snow so far. But today I do, since, as we all know, winter is coming. The reason for my reluctance has been that I come from Lapland, Finland, and I spent the first 20 years of my life closely with snow, too closely. So, at the age of 20, I left my cross-country skis behind and haven't stepped on them ever since. My breakup with downhill skiing hasn't been that definitive. So, winter sports today, specifically cross-country skiing and downhill skiing. Both involve snow and skis, but they are really different animals when it comes to what they do for your body. Winter sports have a reputation, some of it deserved, for being risky as we get older. But the research also shows some remarkable benefits, including a few findings about lifelong skiers that honestly surprised me and made me give a second look at the not-so-fond farewell with my skis. So, let's get into it. What these sports actually do for you and what to think through before you head to the slopes or the trails. And as always applies, what I like to say, don't do nothing, do something and scale it back. Winter tends to be the season when a lot of people's activity decreases. I know mine does. It's cold, it's dark earlier and the couch is warm. Winter sports give you a reason to stay outside and stay moving during exactly the months when that's the hardest. And the outdoor low-light season piece matters a lot. Being outside in daylight during winter supports mood and helps regulate your circadian rhythm. Moderate cold exposure combined with movement is a pretty good combination for circulation and alertness. Cross-country or Nordic skiing is a full-body, low-impact, high-endurance activity. You are using your arms, your core, your legs, all in a smooth, gliding motion. Once you learn to do it right, that is. No wonder exercise physiologists often describe it as one of the most demanding aerobic activities there is. It engages both the upper and lower body at once. And here's the finding that really stuck with me and made me second-guess my devotion to not ski. Researchers in Sweden and at the Ball State University in the US studied groups of healthy men in their 80s. One group had no history of regular exercise, the other group was lifelong cross-country skiers. When they tested aerobic capacity, the lifelong skiers came out roughly 40% fitter than the non-exercising group. And their fitness put them in the lowest all-cause mortality risk category for men of any age. In the researchers' own terms, that's not a small effect. A separate long-term study following participants in Sweden, Vasaloppet, a massive long-distance cross-country race, found that skiers were less than half as likely to die during the 10-year follow-up period compared to matched people from the general population. There's also a growing body of research specifically on cardiovascular outcomes. A review looking at cross-country skiing alongside running found the activity associated with lower mortality risk, and the proposed mechanisms include anti-inflammatory effects, improved blood vessel function, and better levels of things like cholesterol, blood sugar, and blood pressure. And because it's low impact, you are gliding, not pounding pavement, it's one of the most joint-friendly ways to get a serious cardio workout, which matters a lot as we become grown-ups. Downhill or alpine skiing is a different kind of challenge. It's shorter bursts of intense muscular effort. Your quads, glutes, and core are working hard to control speed and absorb terrain, and there's a real balance and coordination component. I remember going back to a slope after a lengthy pause, and after the first descent, my legs were burning, I was gasping for air, and I thought I would not make it out alive. Well, I took the lift up and managed to stay alive and do a few more runs.
Yes!
There's actually a study out of Spain looking specifically at adults over 55 who ski. It found associations between alpine skiing and better health-related quality of life, along with improvements in mood, self-concept and life satisfaction. The researchers framed alpine skiing as a suitable way to keep older adults engaged in the winter sport, precisely because it's motivating and social in a way some other exercise isn't. So both sports check different boxes. Cross-country leans into long-duration cardiovascular and full-body endurance benefits, and downhill leans into strength, balance, coordination, and frankly, the sheer joy and thrill that keeps people motivated to stay active. Different tools, both worth using.
Hey, just a quick note before we continue with the show. If this episode resonates with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And now, back to the show.
The good to know corner.
The same run, the same lift, the same hike can be easy, productive, or genuinely risky, and the only thing that changed is the temperature outside. Heat, cold, humidity, wind, what you're wearing, how hydrated you are, all of that is part of your training load, not just background noise. Let's start with heat. When it's warm or humid, your body has to send extra blood to your skin to release heat. That blood has to come from somewhere, and some of it is blood your working muscles would otherwise be using. So your heart ends up working harder to do the exact same pace or the exact same lift. Humidity makes this worse than dry heat, by the way. In dry heat, your sweat can actually evaporate and cool you down. In humid heat, sweat just sits on your skin and drips off without cooling you nearly as well. So your body overheats more easily, even if the thermometer reading looks similar. Now, why does this matter more after 50? A few reasons. Your sweat response can be a bit slower or less efficient than it used to be. Thirst becomes a less reliable signal, meaning you can be dehydrated before you feel it. Cardiovascular strain during heat tends to run higher, and recovery from a hot heart session can simply take longer than it once did. None of this means avoid warm weather training. It means treat heat exposure the way you would treat mileage or load. Build into it gradually rather than assuming you can just push through it. Cold works on your body differently than heat does. Instead of dumping heat, your body is working to hold onto core temperature. That means muscles and connective tissue tend to feel stiffer, and breathing cold, dry air can irritate your airway. Interestingly, once you are properly warmed up, cold can actually be quite good for performance, often better than heat. The real danger is the transition period, meaning starting too hard before your tissues and your cardiovascular system are actually warmed up and ready. For anyone over 50, cold deserves a bit of extra respect. Blood pressure rises more with cold exposure, warm-up takes longer, balance and reaction time can be reduced on slick surfaces, old injuries or arthritis can flare, and a subtle one, feeling fine overall, can be misleading if your hands, feet or face are getting quite cold without your full awareness. The mindset shift that matters most. A training plan shouldn't say run or ski 8 kilometers at this exact pace, no matter what. It should really say aim for this intended effort and let the day's conditions adjust the pace, duration or volume around that. In a hot environment, that usually means slowing down. In cold weather, it usually means extending your warm-up and skipping the urge to go hard right out of the gate. A few practical tools help here. How hard something feels, your heart rate, the simple talk test, can you hold a conversation or not, and adjusting your pace or power target for the day's conditions. And don't ignore your recovery markers, sleep quality, morning fatigue, unusual soreness, or a resting heart rate that's higher than normal, are all useful signals. For a lot of people over 50, just combining perceived effort with heart rate is a practical approach, and you don't need anything fancier than that. A good structure for a cold weather warm-up is 5 to 10 minutes of gentle movement, some mobility work for your ankles, hips, upper back and shoulders, then a gradual build in intensity. Whether you're running, cycling, skiing or rowing, Don't sprint or push a hard climb in the first few minutes outdoors. Cold is usually fine for steady endurance work, but harder efforts need real preparation. Start slower than you normally would, push intervals later in the session once you are probably warm, skip all out efforts in very cold conditions, and if footing or breathing is a problem outside, just move the high-intensity work indoors that day. A common mistake is that people don't drink enough in cold weather because they are not visibly sweating and don't feel thirsty. But you are still losing fluid through sweat and through your breath. Heavier clothing increases how much you sweat, and cold, dry air increases fluid loss through breathing more than one would expect. A warm drink can help both with comfort and with actually getting your fluids in. Your body can adapt to both heat and cold, but that adaptation takes time. For cold specifically, it's less about becoming immune to it and more about dialing in your clothing system, your pacing, your warm-up and your safety habits. Extend your exposure gradually, test your layering system before you rely on it. Keep your hands, feet and head protected and hold off on long remote sessions until you are confident in how your body and gear handle the cold. As a summary, heat mostly taxes your heart and your body's cooling system. Cold mostly taxes your warm-up, stiffness, blood pressure response, and footing. Either way, the fix is the same. Adjust your pace or your volume, your warm-up, your hydration, and your recovery to match the day you're actually having, not the day on the calendar. A good plan has a clear goal, but flexible execution.
The Good to Know Corner.
How should we then line up good intentions and good outcomes?
1.
Get a check-in before the season starts. Before you commit to a season of skiing, it's worth having a conversation with your doctor, particularly if you have any cardiovascular history, joint replacements or osteoporosis. This isn't about gatekeeping your fun, it's about making sure the sport matches where your body actually is right now, not where it was years earlier.
2.
Pre-season conditioning matters, especially for downhill. Sports medicine guidance consistently points to fitness level going into the season as one of the biggest predictors of injury risk. A few weeks of hip, core and leg strengthening, think bridges, side-lying hip abductions, planks and balance work, make a real difference in how your body handles the demands of turning, absorbing impact and reacting to uneven terrain. For cross-country, on top of the core and balance foundation, the conditioning emphasis shifts a bit toward shoulder and upper back endurance, since you'll be using your ski poles continuously.
3.
Bone density and fall risk are worth naming directly. As we grow older, bone density naturally declines, which changes the risk of falls. This is one of the real legitimate differences between the two sports. Downhill skiing involves higher speeds and a meaningfully higher chance of a hard fall, which raises fracture risk, especially at the wrist, shoulder and lower leg. Cross-country skiing done on groomed trails at a moderate pace carries a substantially lower fall-related injury profile. That doesn't mean downhill is off the table. It means the risk assessment should be honest, not romantic.
4.
Know your terrain and stay within it. One detail from the injury research might be surprising. A lot of injuries happen on easier runs, not the black diamonds. People often get overconfident or fatigued on terrain they assume is safe. The advice is simple. Match your run to your actual current ability and energy level that day, not the ability you had last season or yesterday.
5.
Warm up and don't ski your last run tired. Cold muscles are more prone to strain and tears, so a proper warm-up before you start matters. And a huge share of ski injuries cluster at the end of the day, when fatigue sets in and people push for one more run. The single highest leverage safety habit is just, when you're tired, you're done for the day.
6.
Equipment is not the place to economize. Properly fitted boots and correctly adjusted bindings reduce the risk of injury and make everything more fun. A helmet is a must. I never had one, but that was different times then. Research indicates helmets reduce the risk of certain head injuries by 35 to 60%. For cross-country, good boots, poles sized correctly for your height, and layered, moisture-wicking clothing make the experience both safer and much more comfortable.
7.
Lessons and refreshers are worth it at any age. If it's been years since you last skied, or you are picking up either sport for the first time, a teacher-led lesson or two isn't just for beginners. Proper technique for failing safety, stopping under control, and reading terrain are skills that make the run safer and more enjoyable.
8.
Hydration, layering, and sun protection. Cold weather masks both dehydration and sunburn. People just don't feel thirsty or sunburned the same way they do in summer. But both risks are just as real. Drink water throughout the day, layer clothing so you can adjust as your body temperature shifts, and wear UV protective eyewear and sunscreen, even on cloudy days. The snow is excellent at reflecting even a small amount of sunlight.
Weekly challenge.
Cross-country skiing is one of the best supported low-impact full-body cardio activities out there, with some genuinely striking longevity data behind it. Downhill skiing offers real strength, balance, and mood benefits, but it comes with a higher injury risk that's worth respecting rather than ignoring, especially when it comes to falls and bone health. Neither sport is off limits because of age, but both reward the same thing: honest self-assessment, proper conditioning, the right gear, and the discipline to stop before you're exhausted. So why don't you plan a trip to a snowy place and get your body and gear ready for some snow and fun? And remember what I like to say, don't do nothing, do something, and scale it back.
Welcome to Scale to Fit, Fit in your 50s.
And I am Marko Lindgren. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. All sounds are made by me except the jingle that was made by Gemini. Send us your feedback via email to feedback@scale2.fit or leave a rating at podchaser.com. Check show notes at scale2.fit. All the links are there.
Scale to Fit!